Hello everyone, welcome back to r/Fatlogic. So the big results in the poll showed that you guys wanted a supersized Fatlogic video, so here we are, and we're just going to get down to it. I knew a woman who put on weight drastically in her 40s. Her husband made her meals to help her keep her weight down. It didn't work. The doctor took over, and she was watched like a hawk as her weight was affecting her health. It was realized this lady couldn't even eat a normal sized meal even if she tried. She actually ate less calories a day than you were supposed to. The doctor was mystified and carried out tests to find out why. The results were she had staghorn stones in her kidneys. They couldn't operate with her weight and the size of the stones. It would have killed her. She was put on a 800 calorie diet on it. She lost about half a pound a month. So starvation didn't really affect her weight. If she had been a prisoner of war, I'm sure she would have ended up a lot thinner. But her bad kidney health would have accurately been her reason why she would have survived utter starvation conditions. That woman in the end couldn't eat more than half a piece of toast and maybe half a cup of soup all day due to the pain and being so ill. She ate like that for about 3 to 4 years, topped up with vitamins, etc. She was just never hungry. I should know, as I was the one who looked after her in the end, because her husband would lose his temper in frustration and worry because she wouldn't eat. She lost at very most only 28 pounds in those 4 years, and that's only because she never really ate anything because she was never hungry. She died of heart failure brought on by her kidney failure 3 years ago. She was my mother and her husband is my father, so please don't be too quick to judge. Okay, so a quick Google search showed me that the most common symptoms of staghorn stones are flank pain, blood and urine, and something else. And staghorn stones existing in the kidneys puts the person at an increased risk for sepsis. There's something that's not adding up about this story. Like, it just doesn't seem real. And she was able to live for 4 years with these stones, because that's not like it's life threatening in and of itself. I feel like there's really something missing in this story. It feels fake. Like, the fact that she had staghorn stones and they said they couldn't operate, like, diet wasn't on any of the treatment pages that I saw from Google. Granted, I'm not a doctor, but there was either something going on, the story is exaggerated, or it's just completely made up. I don't believe this. And like, what were they trying to achieve with this exactly? Because it doesn't make sense. Some of us are here today simply because our genetics are really good at surviving famine. What we're not good at is keeping lean, but our ancestors survived famine because of how good our bodies are at converting food to fat and keeping our hunger cues turned on. Plus, calories in and calories out only works if the body works normally, and mine certainly does not. It's so infuriating. I read that for many Americans, it is a biological response from the Great Depression. It's evolution. Epigenetics at play. Since most adults are only a generation or two removed from the Great Depression, that completely tracks. Darwinian medicine! I wish more people would look into this. Hundreds of years of actual famine equals why people experience this. Genetics matter. I know it's a joke, but my Irish genetics really do react like the Brits are gonna starve me out and I must potato. No. No. Okay. So, because of how good our bodies are at converting food to fat and keeping our hunger cues on, if they kept your hunger cues on during a famine, like, I think during a famine, most people are pretty hungry. Like, okay. And I love this. I'm special. My body doesn't work normally, so calories in, calories out doesn't work for me. And I get the feeling that this is not a matter of I have a legitimate medical condition. It seems more like I have this fantasy that my genetics have changed the way my body works in a way that no medical professional could possibly know. So I love that they act with the Great Depression like before the Great Depression, there was just an abundance of food that everyone had access to. People have been starving since the beginning of time. Alright? It's just. Your body would not completely rearrange the way it processes food in a generation. That just doesn't happen. Genetics matter. Genetics matter to a degree. I'm not going to say that it is 100% environmental. There are a level of genetics in how your body disperses fat, in how your body uses fat, to a degree. To a degree. I want to be clear on that. To a degree. But it's more environmental than it is genetic. And I feel like they are acting like it is 100% genetic and they just have no control. It's just... I don't even know how to respond to this anymore. Eat less, exercise more may work in the short term, but it will destroy your metabolism and make it almost impossible for you to lose weight in the future. Instead, learn how to work with your metabolism and not sabotage it. Eat less and exercise more isn't necessarily going to destroy your metabolism, as long as you do it responsibly. Like, no one's saying to, like, starve yourself and then work out every free moment you have. No one is saying that. Your body gets better using the energy that you take in if you exercise, and eating less, because chances are you're eating more than your caloric needs. Eating less keeps you from gaining fat. Like, it's not going to destroy your metabolism. I mean, there are cases where it destroys the metabolism, but I mean, they're extreme. You have to go pretty extreme with it in order for it to really destroy your metabolism. That's not how this works. An option for responding to friends who are talking about their diets and posting before and after pictures. You look great in both pictures. Just know that if, like the vast majority of people, you end up regaining all the weight, that isn't your fault, and you are valid and worthy at any size. That sounds like a shitty friend. That sounds like I fully expect you to get fat again. Even though I know you're working so hard to not be fat, but just know that I will still... Like, it's almost like an abusive relationship situation. It's weird. I don't like this. This is my response to any fat loss post that comes across my path, including in person and on social media. People are allowed to do what they want with their bodies, and I'm fine with being unfriended, blocked. But they almost inevitably regain all their weight, and all those weight loss compliments become insults. I want there to be at least one person who told them that a thinner body isn't a better body. This is a cycle of suck. The diet industry, including within healthcare, dupes people. Then those people perpetuate harm while they are losing weight. Then the industry they were shilling for reharms them when they gain it back. Over the years, I've heard back from people who say, I know I blocked you, but I regained the weight back and I remember what you said, and now I want to hear more. This is one way I feel I can ethically support people who are currently enmeshed in diet culture. This sounds like a fan fiction. This sounds like an absolute fucking fan fiction. Now, there are people that go on weight loss journeys and then regain the weight back, and that is unfortunate, but that's kind of part of being human. We're not very good at doing hard things for a very long time. Typically. Weight loss is hard. Weight management is hard. I feel very comfortable in both those statements. It's hard. And sometimes people get tired of dealing with it, and that's okay. And yeah, you may gain the weight back. The opportunity then is to get back on the wagon. Like, sometimes you just need to recorrect your course and move forward. I gained the weight back, and I remember what you said, and now I want to hear more about fat liberation. I don't believe it. It seems like fan fiction. Saying this to someone who's obviously proud of their weight loss would cause an issue. Even though the overall sentiment is coming from a good place, I don't think it would be... I think that's supposed to be received that way. Yeah, received. Okay. As I mentioned, I'm fine if they don't receive it well. I'm fine if they unfriend or block me. It's for them to hopefully remember when they've gained the weight back. And I definitely hear from people who do just that and are grateful. This kind of gives me the Hannah Talks Bodies with the fat boudoir photographer, like the where she's like, I'm the main character and I am teaching her how to handle fat women. And this is like, I'm teaching people that they will inevitably fail and I'm here to welcome them back with open arms. And it's creepy. It's creepy. I don't like it. I don't like it. It almost seems more like you're putting the doubt in their head, hoping that they will fail. Like, that's what it seems. So that way you don't feel bad about yourself. Like, it seems passive aggressive, and it seems like it's specifically trying to target something that someone is actively working against in order for, like, control, or maybe not control, but, like, because they don't really have that much control. Like I said, they can be unfriended or blocked. But it just seems like a head game to me. In the real world, that means when I walk into a waiting room, there's a good chance I'll be able to find a chair to sit in. If all chairs have arms, my fatness has denied me the privilege of a seat. However, my whiteness means that I'm more likely to be taken seriously if I complain about not being able to sit down. My fatness has denied me the privilege of a seat. My thought was originally that if they're saying it's a privilege, then maybe they recognize it's a consequence, but I don't think so. I think that's tied back to thin privilege. It's a privilege that you, as a non-morbidly obese person, can sit in most seats. The way these privileges and lack thereof interact with each other is called intersectionality, which I highly recommend looking into. As a therapist, it's important for you to be aware of your body privileges, because those privileges, or their lack, affect how we see and interact with the world. Not only does it help you to be a better therapist to understand how different people are affected by their bodies, it helps you to not stick your foot in your mouth on a regular basis. For example, saying you were working with someone to improve their body image as part of their work, you encourage them to just rebuy my clothing in a larger size that actually fits. The problem is that given how limited the clothing options are for someone who's very fat, there may be no larger size to buy for almost everything. Being aware of that lack of privilege would keep us from having to have an awkward conversation about that with someone who might be hurt by it. I don't even know how to comment on this anymore. I get so tired of the clothing argument. I get so fucking tired of the clothing argument. Okay. As a therapist, rather than tiptoeing around your clients, maybe try to get to the root of why they insist on being fat, because I think the vast majority of these people that push the fat acceptance, fat liberation movement are dealing with kind of like what we saw with Marissa, with some undealt with bullying trauma, and there's probably a general sense of internalized shame and guilt about not being able to lose the weight. And I think I'm not one to attribute like lack of weight loss with laziness, because I think it's a bit more complicated than that. I think for a lot of people, food is a source of comfort that they learn to use in early childhood to deal with things, and you kind of have to unpack those things first before you can remove the food as a comfort. Otherwise, they're just going to transfer that to something else, and it's probably going to be something that's easy to grab. So if they could trade it, I mean, they could trade it for like exercising. They could also trade it for drugs. They could trade it for cigarettes or gambling. The most positive transference would probably be a hobby of some sort, but even that could become harmful at some points if those issues aren't like dealt with, because clearly the issues are severe enough that they eat in exceptional excess. Like if you, even this therapist here, her fatness has denied her the privilege of a seat. She is too fat for a seat. What is she dealing with internally? Like, I find it interesting that the therapist doesn't, because it's weird to eat so much that you can't fit in a seat. And rather than trying to change society to accept that as a norm and make bigger seats, perhaps we should stop and take a look at our own eating habits. Like, I eat like shit when I'm stressed. And it is clearly, sometimes I use food as a coping mechanism, and that's not good, and I'm trying to change that. For me, there's no, like, underlying trauma so much for food, but it is a way that I cope with stress. When I'm not stressed, I lose weight very easily. So it's a matter of finding different outlets. So sometimes, I guess saying that it's always trauma or psychological, well, I think it is psychologically based, but saying it's trauma is not correct. So let me backtrack a little bit on that. I do think that it can be related to trauma. I think that should definitely be explored. But, well, granted, I'm not morbidly obese. I've never been morbidly obese, so maybe for the morbidly obese it is more trauma-based. I don't know. There's also just the chance, there's a couple of different factors now that I think about it. So there is the potential for trauma. There's also just poor coping mechanisms. I actually think it's fairly normal for children to learn to use food as a coping mechanism if the adults in their lives have not taught them better coping mechanisms, because it's there and it makes you feel good. So I can see how that happens, and so in times of stress, because you did it as a kid, it's just what you naturally go back to, and you kind of have to transfer that coping mechanism for something healthier. There's also a lack of education around nutrition and portion sizes. There's, let's face it, when you eat nothing but junk food and like shit processed food forever, the healthy stuff doesn't taste very good. Like, you have to kind of gradually incorporate it, and so people trying to go from eating nothing but like Kraft mac and cheese and fried chicken to eating salads, that's too big of a jump for them. And I think maybe, especially for the first portion, if you've really just eaten nothing but shit your entire life, that maybe instead slowly changing it and start with just trying out a bunch of veggies and see if there's one that you can tolerate. Cook them in different ways. There's some where once you bite into it, you're like, nope, that's nasty. I don't want to eat that ever again. That's how I am with watercressants. I think they're fucking disgusting. I will never eat watercressants. And same with radishes. Fucking hate radishes. But, like, broccoli, I'm not a huge fan of it raw, but I like it sauteed. Zucchini is good in a variety of ways. I love bell peppers. I can eat them raw. And it's just a matter of finding veggies that you like in different states. There's some, like, I'm not a fan of cooked carrots, but I love raw carrots. Like, it's a matter of finding what works for you. And it's not going to be as, I eat nothing but junk food to know I'm completely healthy. I think there should be a little bit of a work up to that. My sweet, handsome man went to the vet yesterday and they diagnosed him as obese. Fat phobia is now alive and well in the feline world. Honey, animals have always had recommended weights, and it's kind of like the same with people. Like, there can be morbidly obese animals. My grandmother has a cat that I'm trying to get her to not feed so many treats because it's getting too big. Alright? there are cats that, I mean, what about that one, like, gigantic cat that had to go on, like, an exercise regimen, and he was in, like, some water with a treadmill, and he didn't want to, and he was sitting way off to the side, just moving one paw because he didn't want to move. Like, animals will eat what's in front of them. And there's animals that are more sedentary, because it's really interesting because I've had a variety of pets, and there are pets that are just active. They just want to run constantly, and so, like, their weight doesn't need to be monitored as much. But then there's also animals that are a bit more sedentary, and they get too big for what's good for them. So you have to monitor. This is not being fat phobic. This is for your cat's health. All right? Your cat cannot be obese and healthy. It can't. Your cat needs to lose weight, and I'm sorry that you don't like that, and I'm sorry that clearly you feel that it violates your identity, because you're clearly projecting onto your cat. What do you think is the issue if he's not fat? If he's not obese? He needs to lose weight for his own health. Take care of your cat, please. Just take care of your fucking cat. Reminder, your brain needs a minimum of 8 slices of bread per day to function. Carbs are the main source of energy for our brain and body. We need a minimum of 130 grams of carbs per day just for our brain to function. That's 8 slices of bread that we need each day just for our brain. Restricting carbs can lead to nausea, fatigue, reduced physical performance, and in long-term osteoporosis and kidney damage. Okay, I want to verify their numbers. The 130 grams of carbs per day minimum is recommended for healthy individuals. For the average slice of bread, though, it would be closer to 10. But the issue is that carbs are in a lot of things that we don't consider. And quite frankly, if you're using white bread as your carbs, you're going to end up probably eating more carbs than you really need in the day, because it's really better to get... So a subsection of carbs is fiber. So it's better to... Not all of your carbs should be fiber by any means, but getting more fiber in your carbs is going to actually help you stay fuller longer, and it's better for your brain and body. No one's saying... Like, I gotta admit, I'm not a huge fan of the keto diet. I don't personally like it. I think if someone's doing it with doctor supervision, then it's fine. Like, check in with your doctor, make sure it's good for you, that sort of thing. I talked to my doctor because I wanted to up my protein intake. This was a couple of years ago, but I was planning on keeping, like, a moderate level of carbs. And she said it was fine for me. She wasn't a fan of me going no carb, which I wasn't really planning on doing anyway. But, like, this isn't wrong. Like, it's not factually wrong. I just feel like it's a bit misleading because I feel like it's presenting carbs in a very limited space. Like, I eat protein bars. Actually, I'm going to go get one of my protein bars. Alright, so I am holding in my hand a 1 bar. This flavor is buttered pecan. And I have 1 bars plus a couple handfuls of trail mix for lunch every weekday, because I work and it's easier. Now, in my 1 bar, it's 230 calories. It's 9 grams of fat, 23 grams of carbs. So that's the equivalent of nearly 2 slices of bread right there. 7 grams of fiber, 1 gram of sugar, and 20 grams of protein. I love these. They keep me satisfied until I get home for dinner, and I have a very active job. So they work really well for me. Now, I also have a protein shake in the morning that has a fair amount of carbs in it. Like, carbs are in a lot of things, and you don't necessarily need to eat carby items like rice and bread. There's nothing wrong with eating them like that, but I don't like the presentation that carbs are only in carby things. Carbs are in a lot of things. And especially if you're eating like snacky foods like crackers and cookies and stuff, there's carbs in those too. So chances are you're getting far more carbs than you realize. Now, this could very well just be more focused towards the keto people. This is kind of one of those things, though, where, like, I'm just gonna stay in my lane. Like, if it's someone I really care about, I might ask, have you talked to your doctor about it? But on the grand scheme of things, it's not my job to police what someone else puts in their mouth. That goes on both sides. Both with the Fatlogic people and with the super fitness people. It's not my job and it's not my concern, and it's not my business to see what goes into other people's mouths. I'm worried about the food I eat. And so how about, if you want to present this, that's fine. But I hope you're not policing what other people eat, because it's not your business. Just as you don't want people to police what you eat. Government, we need to tackle obesity. Science, well, if you want people to be healthy, it's actually best to eradicate poverty, since that's the most unhealthy thing for the mind and body. So you could try raising living standard. Government, calories on menus! It's like the government has read a 90s diet book with classic advice like count calories and chew gum so you feel full, and other diet advice that's actually just how to develop an eating disorder really fucking quick. I didn't like posting about it because I'm not going to debate how toxic this is and how fatphobic it is. But now I see that other accounts are sharing the tweet without, at the very least, tagging me. So I'll share it here too. Wait, what? I didn't feel like posting about it because I'm not going to debate how toxic and how fatphobic it is. But now I see other accounts are sharing the tweet without, at the very least, tagging me, rolling her eyes. They don't have to tag you. That's, okay, interesting. So I'll share it here too. I just don't know anymore how to make people care about fat people. How can you convince people that we shouldn't be eradicated? I'm tired. Well, honey, if eradicating you... So here's the big thing. I still have my protein bar. Here's the thing. Alright, eradicating fat people just means making them lose weight. That's not the same thing when you talk about eradicating other people. Because generally, eradicating means killing. And yet, and by killing, I mean like actually taking a life. Not just making to where someone doesn't fit the category anymore. Alright? That's not them killing fat people if they are having them lose weight. That's not killing fat people. Now, I would like to make a note, though, on some validity of what's put on this. It's not a point that she particularly made, but it's a point that I think stands out in the way this is presented. And that is, I think that there is a little, especially in these times, there's a little over-focus on individual responsibility when there's a lot of issues put in place that prevent individuals from being able to fully take control and take ownership of their own lives. Like, America needs universal health care. It needs universal health care. It also needs mandatory nutrition classes in every school. Mandatory nutrition lessons, I would say, starting in 3rd grade. Living wages that ensure a person working full-time could reasonably own like a 2-bedroom apartment with just their salary. Like, there are a lot of things that I think making sure everyone, including those that are like don't have food, actually get food. And an easy way to do that is just to, like, there were other countries that made it illegal for grocery stores to throw out good food. So when food was reaching its expiration date and the grocery stores didn't want anymore, it was forced to go to food banks. I think that's a fantastic idea. But that's not a point that they made, but it's a point that I felt needed to be made. Here, though, one, the audacity where she's like, they could have at least tagged me. Honey, they don't have to do shit. They don't have to do shit. You put it out there. If you didn't put anything, if you saw this and didn't make a comment, that's not their fault. Why should they have to fucking tag you? Like, the audacity and entitlement. I just don't understand. As someone who is considered within the thin umbrella, I can say that fat phobia is an incredibly dangerous and pervasive form of marginalization that regularly endangers lives in the same way disableism, I think she means ableism, does, and is frequently bound up with it. I have experienced terrible, and it just kind of ends, okay. So, I was denied treatment today because of my weight. I don't have anything to say right now, but I'm naming it and speaking it so that y'all remember it happens every fucking day. Every day. So I would like to know what you mean by you were denied treatment because of your weight. Was it that you were denied a surgery because you were too heavy and the risk was too much? Were you denied treatment in that you wanted a different treatment but the doctor deemed it inappropriate for you and thought that maybe losing weight was better? Like, I'm not saying that you were denied treatment because of your weight, but I wish I knew, like, the actual, circumstances behind it, because, like, I was denied treatment today because of my weight. Oh, was it also, like, with MRI machines, they have a weight limit where you denied a test? Like, I just wish I knew the more specifically what this was, because anyone can claim anything and not give context, and that's not what actually really happened. That was just their perception of what happened. So it's too bad. I wish I could know a little bit more. Clearly this person bought it hook, line, and sinker. I'm not saying that denying treatment because of weight doesn't happen. It does. It's just usually for safety reasons, as far as I know. I cannot stress enough that fat phobia is a literally murderous ideology that makes the world worse and less livable for every single human. Honey, calm down. Calm down. It is not murderous. One, fat phobia, from what I understand, is not an ideology. That's not the way it's ever been. It's been noted as a prejudice, similar to racism, ableism, and homophobia. It's not a particular ideology. There is that I think the murderous ideology would probably be the anti-fatness idea that they have going around, in which that the goal would be to not be fat, and that is what anti-fatness is, and then it's still not murderous. I don't really know where they get murderous from. I feel like they are taking, like, because you would be thinner and not be fat anymore, you are therefore murdering fat people, and that's not how murder works. Like, I didn't think I ever had to explain how murder works, but if you lose weight and aren't fat anymore, you didn't murder a fat person. You're just not fat anymore. Like, where does this notion that, I mean, I've seen it with a couple of different things. I recorded many videos this week, including the Fat Sapphic Bro video, and he also talked about murdering fat people and how anti-fat is murdering fat people, and I just don't really understand their logic in any way that seems rational to me, because the only way I've been able to piece it out is that by not being fat anymore, they've murdered fat people, and that's not how that works. That's not how murder works. Alright, I think we have one more. There's a new girl in our friend group dating one of my guy friends. Let's call her Tara. Yesterday I was chatting with another girl in the group, Mary, and I mentioned that Tara seems sweet but very quiet, that I haven't really connected with her yet, figuring it would just take some time. Mary said, "Well, my name. You are the smallest one in the group. The rest of us are big girls. Tara's a big girl. She probably isn't comfortable around you because you're not big like most of us. She warmed up to me immediately. What? To me, this seems like Mary has... fucking watch your back around Mary, girl. Mary has a fucking out for you. Mary is ready to slap a bitch. Like, Mary wants to see you feel bad and wants to see you tugged down. Like, Mary wants to see you feel as insecure as she clearly feels around you. Clearly, Mary is fucking jealous of you. Tara, I don't fucking know. Tara may have warmed up to Mary. Mary may be talking absolute fucking shit. But I think Mary is the bigger... I was going to say bigger one with the problem, meaning the bigger problem. But, I just realized that sounds like I'm insinuating her weight, which was not my goal. But Mary, I think Mary is, like, someone you should be careful of. I think Mary wants to see you, like, cry. Like, Mary's being super passive-aggressive here. Like, I know I'm projecting a lot onto Mary, and it's because Mary reminds me a lot of a childhood friend. Childhood friend was actually thinner than I was, but she would do shit like this. She would do shit like this, and our big competition was between who was more intelligent. She would do stuff like this with homework assignments that I was struggling with, but only in front of groups. Like, she would come find me or ask me for help when other people weren't looking. But during a group, but when we were, like, in a big group with the other kids, she would say stuff that would make me look stupid. But yeah, so I realize I'm projecting some with the Mary character, but I'm actually kind of curious if there's any comments. So let's take a look. I don't normally read the comments, but I want to read the comments this time. That makes total sense to me. People who consider themselves unattractive or otherwise having a lower social status sometimes avoid what they believe is a genuine risk of judgment or unkindness from others they consider more attractive, popular, etc. Mary loves to tell people that when she met me, she thought I was going to be a total bitch because I'm thin and well-dressed. So this tracks. Is this supposed to be based on the in-group, out-group bias thing from psychology? Can you say insecure? Yes! Well, not really. When I was fat, I also found slim, beautiful women to be a bit intimidating, kind of assumed they wouldn't want to be friends with me. I wasn't about them, I was about me. It was about me. It wasn't about them, it was about me. Yeah, I think Mary is projecting. Yes. Mary has some unresolved issues. And we're gonna leave it there. We're gonna end with Mary. So, quick things I ended up maintaining this week, and I think it's because I went a little nuts on Friday and Saturday. So I need to get on top of that. Not a whole lot interesting going on for me in the past week. It's been leading up to spring break. I'm on spring break now. Not a whole lot's probably going to happen this week other than me cleaning my space and hopefully learning to quilt my first bag. I've been wanting to get into bag making for a while, so I'm excited about that. I'm recording a lot of material to kind of get me through till summer. Not sure how much I'll actually get through. And I'm down to like the last 10 or so body positivity, Fatlogic, fat liberation books. So I think what I'm going to be doing though is just start reading them out loud and reacting as I go, because that seems to be working better for me. And I hope you guys are enjoying the Hayes Reading Group nominees. And I think that's about it. I want to give a big thank you to everyone who comments and everyone who has subscribed. You guys are amazing, and I really appreciate you. And have a good week, my friends. And I will see you next time.